Welcome to the Cocoa Recovery Podcast.
The Cocoa Recovery Podcast presents the conversations of an informal group of friends gathered over coffee to discuss their current experience in recovery. The simple purpose of this podcast is to be helpful by sharing the realities of people living in recovery. The hosts and guests may or may not be practicing members of 12-step programs. The Cocoa Recovery Podcast is not affiliated with any organization, institution, or facility, neither endorses nor opposes any causes or approaches to recovery and rehabilitation. Whatever is expressed in the podcast represents our individual experiences and opinions as of today. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Cocoa Recovery Podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Carbs.
And I'm Barbie.
And I'm Pirate Mike. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys. This is our fifth episode.
Wow.
And we've been off this podcast. We've been discussing about emotional sobriety. And I have a question for you guys. What does it look like to you? What does emotional sobriety look like?
I think
Right?
someone who's emotionally sober doesn't look like they're just trudging along sobriety, like like what
The
we
shower
said
day.
before, like trudging along, still unhappy, still mad at their God or just mad at life in general because they're not able to drink. I think that's someone without the emotional sobriety. It's just they're just dry drunks. They're not drinking, but they haven't gotten anywhere with with the things that they have to learn. They're not able to face life on life's terms still.
That's true. I mean, we were all angry at one point. You know what I'm saying? The anger part, right? Yeah. But if emotional sobriety is something that you work on every freaking day.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not every day that it's all sunshiny and rainbows. For sure, at one moment in any given day, actually every day, something's gonna piss you off.
Definitely.
And then if you're not emotionally stable or emotionally sober, that can turn huge, to be honest. And yeah. I only say that because if I can't take constructive criticism, if I can't take that from other people, I'm not built for this. I'm just gonna go back to drinking. If I'm not able to, if I'm not able to be in the present and not like make it into a big thing and take it as it is. Like an example of a person is like what we were discussing before, about the quality of your recovery.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the and not the length, because there's so many old timers.
It's like you're years into this program and you're still a jerk.
Yeah.
That's not emotional sobriety, right? That can't be.
Like an emotional sober person for me is someone who's actually applying the steps, to their daily affairs, So like with the 12 steps, the first step is the only one that mentions drinking, right? Or alcohol in the whole 12 steps. It's the only step 1. So they say that, the alcohol is the problem, and the steps 2 to 12 is about the solution, so you have to be like applying these steps in your life, like on a daily basis. And if you are, then you would be emotionally sober. But if you're just like attending meetings for the sake of it, like just to vent or like bitch about life and not really applying the steps, right? Then you're
not here for giggles.
Well, it's a thin,
To make friends.
it's a very fragile lifeline, right? If like all you have are the people in the room to keep you sane and sober and alive. I agree with what you said. I think that so not too long ago, like when I first moved back, right? I remember being in meetings and talking a lot about emotional sobriety, and people were like, "Oh, what's that?" But my understanding of it then was very much like not reacting like a crazy person, right? I think I was focused more on the like, what is your conduct like? Are you behaving like a civilized person? And if you're not, then you're not working on being emotionally sober. But I can do that most of the time and still be a mess in my head and in my heart, and that's what I was missing. So today, when I think about emotional sobriety, and it's really the stuff that we're working on in the steps, assuming that I've already like stopped drinking,
Mm.
and I'm learning how to live sober, then the experience of recovery that it talks about eventually gets me to a point where I'm emotionally sober. And I think that, I didn't do a good job. I didn't really do any job of any of the steps past step 10, for years. And so it just felt like every day was, for me, the practice of step 10 every day for years was like minding my behavior. And like, oh, I'm taking inventory, and the way that I'm doing that is like, if I lash out or whatever, then I'll just try to like course correct my behavior. But nothing was really changing within me.
Mm.
You weren't growing.
I wasn't
Yeah.
growing. And even
Yeah.
prayer and meditation, it was just like, it was like the kiddie prayer, I was reciting the third step, seventh step, like serenity prayer, like I did my childhood prayers, dear Papa Jesus, like whatever, just like
Yeah.
the words, and then read a daily reflection. Oh, that sounds good. And then I'm off to work. But nothing was really penetrating like too much
Yeah.
beneath the surface. It was only later on when in step 11 practice, I began doing things more like examining my motives. Like, oh, my motives, like what are my actual motives right now? Like, are they dishonest, selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking?
Mm.
Do I not want to be this person anymore? Not just do I not want to act like this person, but do I actually want to let go of the anger? You know, do I want to be at peace more than I want to be right? Like thinking along those lines helped me get into a better place. And I think, I got to appreciate the work towards emotional sobriety, which is, I mean, it's synonymous with maturity, I think.
Yeah, it is a lot of maturity. Like just
Yeah.
even with like when bad things happen to you, it shit
Yeah.
happens every single day, but it's how you respond to these things that makes you mature, right? Or emotionally sober. Like, are
Yeah.
you gonna be like gonna act like a baby and throw a fit,
Right.
and blame it on other people, or you're gonna take responsibility, and basically like if something bad happens, you sit through it, you feel it,
There you go.
You sit through it. Yeah.
because you sit through it and feel it because that's the only way through.
Mm-hmm.
As alcoholics, we're so used to just running away.
Yeah.
When something bad happens, when something hurts, we're allergic to that. And just like, I'm just going to go and drink. And every time we drink, we don't learn the lesson. There's always like a valuable lesson in everything that happens in our lives. And we just keep running away from it by drinking.
Yeah.
But every single time you go through some kind of hardship or challenge without drinking, you're growing as a person. You're getting stronger as a person. So I think that emotional sobriety has something to do with that as well.
And it's also not
Accepting
pushing down. It's not
Mm.
pushing down what you're feeling. It's
Mhm.
not disregarding it. It's not running away from it. It's not pushing everything down. It's not sweeping it under the rug or anything like that. Because
Or the
that's
other way. There's the
right?
sweeping under the rug, but then there's also the overcompensation, right?
The
Like, especially if it's
overcompensation.
feelings like rage, like
Exactly, right?
I'll trash the fucking room. And what is that? That's a temper tantrum.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a toddler.
Exactly. And when you mentioned about maturity, I get it. I get that point where like I'm an adult now and I should start acting like one because when I was drinking and when I was using, The decisions and choices I make were clearly not adult and not mature enough. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, yes, of course, there are the small decisions in life but the major ones, somebody had to do it for me.
Mm,
That was my reality, and I knew that I wasn't. I knew when I started this program, and like, okay, we're gonna sit through your pain and shit like that. I couldn't decide. I didn't know if I was gonna be deciding. Like, every choice seemed so big, and because
Mhm.
I was not emotionally sober, that every little challenge that came just seemed like colossal.
It's like the sky is falling
It's like
every
the
time
sky
something
was
bad was
falling. And
happening.
that's
yeah.
not no, that's no way to live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna trudge through this just feeling like, oh my god, I can't do it. Like, you can't go through every day and be like, can I do this? Am I doing it? Am I right? Am I wrong? What am I supposed to do? No. No. But then, like, yeah, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of courage to actually admit. It took a lot of courage on my part to admit that I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because apparently my growth stunted when I this is what my sponsor said, like, your mind and your emotional growth kind of stops
Mm-hmm.
right when you really start drinking and using.
Yeah. That's what my
Mine
counselor
was
said too.
17. So imagine that. And
So
like,
you've been drinking.
everything started to make sense. You know what you remember when we were discussing about that whole fantasy world that we live in,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
that was it. That was my immature mind,
Yeah.
just like stuck there, thinking that, this is the real world. It never grew out of that.
Yeah. So if
Like,
you started drinking like continuously from like the age of like your early 20s
yeah,
until like, it kind of you're not maturing. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, your growth is stunted. You're still thinking like a 20-year-old when you're already 40,
exactly.
thinking like, oh, I'm still
Exactly.
gonna party and there are no consequences and whatever. It's a very selfish life,
That's it.
right?
No consequences. No consequences. That's a until everything blows up in your face. Fuck. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Right?
And
Right.
everything is
27
about
years later.
you. It's all about your ego, right?
Right.
Like you're just
Yeah, you can't take accountability for anything
mhm,
because you're
mhm.
not there. You're not there. But here's the thing, but how is, like, the three of us seem to be jiving about what emotional sobriety is. But then, like, when we see other people in the program, or in the fellowship and stuff like that, how come their definition of emotional sobriety is completely and utterly different from what I think most of us believe is normal?
Like what? Like
Like
what have you
what?
heard?
Like, how people are in the fellowship. So, like, there are still jerks who have been here for
Oh,
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, I know
it's
what you're
not
talking.
it's not like, how is this okay? How is it how is it that
If
their
you're that
lives are still
angry,
okay?
right? Let's say you have double digits in sobriety and you're still so angry. And we've seen people,
yeah.
you know, in our home groups that are still so angry and so egotistical. And you're wondering, yeah, how is she able to maintain sobriety when
How
she's always
yeah.
that angry? How does that happen?
It
Because if I was
changes,
that angry, I would end up drinking.
but it changes. It turns into something else. Like I was talking about this letter that Bill W. wrote, right? And I think he was what 24 years sober at the time, and he was talking about emotional sobriety. And there's something that he wrote there that kind of it speaks to what both of you were talking about, Carbs and Barbie. Like I'm trying to find it. He says those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance, urges quite appropriate to age 17. proved to be an impossible way of life when we are at age 47 or 57. So he's talking about immaturity, right? And kind of like that stunted development.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you can be abstinent from alcohol and drugs and still be immature. There are many people like who are quote unquote normies that are still big babies that we know of, right?
Yeah.
And the attachment, even though it's not, say, with like drugs or alcohol anymore, we know many people where that's transformed into other things, codependent relationships, gambling. You don't have to immediately go back into alcohol or drugs. It could be something else that feeds the beast. And there's so many people that are still enabled, like you were talking about the lack of accountability, right? I was just talking to somebody about this. Like the three of us share some commonality in the place that we were, the kind of life that we had when we were still active, right? Like I think it's not so much of a stretch to say that we both lived at, like the three of us lived out this kind of like less than zero kind of like invincibility when we were out there drinking and music. Like this city was the playground.
Yep.
And not everybody has that experience, you know. I will say that like maybe it's true about the immaturity, but for me personally lang, like I don't want that to turn into a limit. Not anymore. As in, you tell me that like I'm this age, but then my mental age or emotional age is that. Like for me personally, that could get me into trouble if I fixate on that idea. I need to believe that God can do anything. And that's also give me instant maturity if that's what I need to recover. And I have met people who are like, I met a bunch of people lately who are in their mid-20s, 2, 3, 4 years sober, who have more maturity than I ever had at that age because
Yeah.
of the experience they've had in recovery.
Yeah.
The
You know?
quality of
There's
their
also that point when like I was discussing this with my sponsor. It's like you come into recovery, accept the program, and it's fellow.
Mm,
If you can't, then what are
right.
you doing here?
Yeah, I remember when we were in a meeting, and then there was this woman who entered, and she was like, "Oh, can I join even though, I'm not religious?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course, it's a higher power, it could be anything. You don't have to be religious. This is not a religious program. This is a spiritual program." And then she's like, "Well, I don't like the 12 steps." And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
so I'm like, this is not gonna work out. This is not the this is
yeah.
not the program for you, or this is, basically I said, maybe you should see a counselor."
But
Yeah.
she's looking for
And then
connection, right? And I've seen so many
Yeah.
people like that. I will assume if she's like some of the people that I've met before, she comes in and she's looking for connection, but then her way of connecting at that point is by lashing out and getting into a fucking argument with people. But she really wants to connect.
Yeah.
She's
or
just so
lashed out
like,
at me.
He just doesn't know how.
because you engaged, you were kind enough to engage.
Yeah,
Nobody else
like,
responded.
I was like, "Hey, maybe you should stick around after the meeting to talk to sponsors so we can explain the 12 steps to you." And she's like, "Well, I don't like the 12 steps." And I was like, "Maybe you should see a counselor." And she's like, "You're rude."
Rude.
Rude. You know?
No,
So
but
yeah, that's not emotional sobriety right there.
there's another thing that I found out about this other person, right? This person is hesitant to do like the steps properly.
Properly.
Yes.
You
This
mean
is
just
true.
what is that? What's
Hence
what's the
why
definition of
this
properly?
person is still, no matter how long this person is in recovery, it's like it's not completely there because like she just doesn't want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Like for example, the fourth step. Like I remember being told that no, she doesn't want to do it. She's actually she doesn't want to do it how sponsors tell her to do it.
Oh my gosh.
It's such a pet peeve.
Can they hear my eye roll? Look,
Yeah.
by an eye roll, like
It rolled to another dimension.
It's such a it's weird. It's a pet peeve, but then I immediately need to see like how I'm now like looking down on people because that's my ego. But objectively, like it is a problem, right? Because there are a lot of people who continue to suffer that way. Like anytime I hear somebody saying like, well, I know it says this, but my program,
Mm.
And I'm like, you're fucking miserable with double-digit sobriety.
Yeah.
Like, how I don't understand. But like there's still the fight, and I think that's what limits a lot of people is holding on to that fight. But at the same time, if I'm meeting them, then that means they found their way to a meeting. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, like you mentioned, Carbs, like, why is somebody got so much time and still? It's because of that. It's because there's a room and a crowd for them to come to. Like, we know people who are, I know there are cases where like there are other fellowships that are more like social, right?
yeah.
And that kind of lends itself to that. But then even setting that aside, because we have common acquaintances, there are people overseas who use the rooms of AA in kind of a similar way. It's like, hey man, I've got like 7 years sober. I haven't really done my step 6, but I'm not drinking today, and I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's all they're doing day in and day out, day in and day out, because they can, because the only requirement for membership
Is it
in the
desire to
fellowship
stop
is a desire to stop drinking.
drinking? That is
Recovery has some actual fucking requirements.
I think I mentioned this, like without change, there's no recovery.
Mm.
So you have to, in order to change, in order to be a better person, a kinder person,
I guess you can always say that it's also like maybe this is like the one thing that person or whoever does this, like the steps, don't want to do it properly. It's the one thing they can still control.
they haven't fully surrendered.
There
Right.
you go.
But
It's
it
like it's the
is.
one thing I can control. I can do this my way. You can tell me how you do it, but then I'll probably take inspiration.
For now.
You know.
Yeah.
For now. But then, the book talks about being at the jumping off place. Like there's all these allusions to the crossroads, right? So I think anyone who's suffering, you kind of get to the point where it's like, are you going to change or are you going to die?
Mm,
Not everybody makes the choice you would expect.
exactly.
Yeah.
Holy
I
shit.
remember like I did change sponsors recently because she was more of an NA, which is fine, it's kind of similar, but still it's not exactly the same as the AA way of doing the steps. So I wanted to make sure, that's why I changed to another sponsor. And when this woman told me, she's had 40 years and she's one of those she's the real deal. She's emotionally sober. This woman is emotionally sober and she's always smiling. That's another thing. When you go to a meeting and you see someone who's always laughing and smiling, that's a person I want to be with, you know?
Not like scowly. Yeah.
It's someone I would go to for advice because you look at her and I'm like, I want to be just like you. Why are you so happy? I want to have what you have. Why would I approach this grouch of a woman, the other one sitting next to her, who's like, I'm not here to make friends.
Not here for giggles.
I'm not here for giggles. And we're all there giggling and laughing. And I'm like, fine. I don't want to be your friend anyway. You're scared.
Direct hit at us. Like, what? No, but you see, that's an emotionally stable person or sober person.
Yeah.
Even though she vents out or she rants, her voice is like calm. She has a little grin on her face when she's saying something, that bothers her, and she's not combative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And when she told
Comes
me,
back
she's like,
to
okay,
solution.
yeah,
Right?
she's like, oh, can I see your 4th step? Because I had done it
Yeah.
previously with another sponsor. And she's just like, okay, all right. Okay, I want you to do it this way this time. Okay. And I was like, deep inside, I'm like, what? It took me months to write my 4th step. And when she said to do it again, I was like, no. I'm like, it's gonna be so painful. And I was like, what? And there has to be call-ups. I'm like, fuck this. But I said, yes, ma'am, I'm gonna do it. Even though deep inside I was like, fuck this. But I was like, yes, ma'am, because I want to be like her. I want to be happy like
that.
her.
right? You
You
want
know, so
that
she
kind of-
said put it in like columns. I'm gonna do it in columns.
That's the key.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah, because you want that kind of sobriety.
Yes.
You want
Yes.
that.
I
Right.
want to
That's
work
that's
hard
amazing.
for my sobriety. And if it takes me doing this step all over again and putting it in columns, I
Yeah.
will.
Because this happened recently, right, to us, right? We saw somebody actually do this. It's like, how do I ask somebody to sponsor me?
Mm.
And I did reach out to that person, and I was like, I was told a long time ago, look for somebody who has the kind of recovery that you want. And it helps if they have a working knowledge of the program, right? But like, that's who you go for. But actually, that's not true. What I was told early on is, find someone in the rooms who has something that you want, who has what you want.
Ooh.
And that
Like a
is
hot husband. I'm just kidding.
no, because, well, maybe in another life, but like, no, but because that's a very important distinction, because the people who I look towards, who had what I wanted, was the hot girlfriend or the cool guy,
Okay.
things on the outside that made it look like they had a great life. And I thought that they had this great life because of sobriety. I wasn't actually looking for somebody who had emotional sobriety, who had strength of faith, who had happiness, joy, and freedom written on their face. Like, these were,
Yep.
so it's a really important distinction.
And who's
Yeah.
helped a lot of people. Someone who's helped a lot of people.
I think it also is because when you spark a connection with someone too, like a real, like, you have a conversation, for God's sakes, right? Before you like I think that's finding a sponsor is like, let's have a conversation, and you kind of have to see if you want me to be part of your recovery.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
They say
Right.
attraction rather than promotion, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
Person is attractive to you
Yeah.
because they're doing something right.
right.
Like, I know you're desperate, and I know, like, but like I'm on my, I have my own recovery, which I take care of, and what I can impart to you is it something that you want? Let's have a conversation about it. See what I'm like. And if we jive together, and if you want what I have, and if you think that the emotional sobriety that I have is enough for you, let's do this.
Hmm.
Let's recover together.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah,
That's
there's
exactly what I
this-
said to my first Swansea.
Ooh.
Woohoo!
No, I mean, like, let's recover together. I got you. You want what you asked me? We're both a mess. Let's do this. Let's bond over. Let's bond over step one.
Mhm.
That's what
And
I
then
told her.
there's this other person who's been in the program for a long time, and she asked me and another friend. She created a group chat without asking permission, but she just like, okay, she tagged me and another person. It's like, and I'm like, okay. And then she was just like asking us for advice, like, what am I gonna do? This happened to me. And I'm like, she's like so upset, right? And of course, my friend and I were like, of course, you should pray through it. You should pray about what, and then she's just like, no. I'm like, prayer is not an action. She's like, prayer is not an action. I want to go to the barangay and report this person. Da, 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 da. I'm going to have them like, and I'm just like, why did you even ask us for advice if you're not willing to listen? We're not expecting you to like follow everything we say, but to say like, like she already made up her mind.
Yeah.
She just wanted, I guess she just wanted someone to vent to. Because I'm just like,
Mm,
maybe like, look, I'm gonna do this, okay?
like
You know,
allies.
so- yeah.
When I see these people, like, I guess it's because we've created AA is the rooms are exactly that, a safe space for you to vent out your problems and to ask for advice or whatever it is, right? You with your fellows and stuff like that. But then, like, if you know about the program, I mean, if you've been here long enough, you basically have that idea already of what to do. You know what I'm saying?
No,
No? So I'm
Because
not right to assume like when these people are already in here, like for a number, let's say more than a year, you're telling me that not everyone like, oh, I still don't know what to do. I mean, like not what to do, but I mean like the basics. Like if I need something, I'm gonna ask for help, and I'm gonna take that help into consideration. I'm gonna think about it, and
that's basic. But I mean,
basic.
if we're talking about the common solution in the rooms, how many people do you know that talk about program relative to the number of people that you've met in recovery?
Oh, okay.
It's not a lot.
It's not a
Yeah.
lot.
It's not a lot. And many people in AA are not alcoholic.
I
What?
beg your pardon?
I'm like, what?
I beg your pardon?
There are people in AA who are not alcoholics.
Yeah.
You know what came into my head? You know that
Why
Yeah.
would you
know
want to
that
be an
scene-
alcoholic?
No, wait. You know what came into my head? You know that scene in Mean Girls when they were doing the trust fall? And then there was like this girl like, I just want us all to get along and eat cupcakes and stuff like that. And then Damien goes, she doesn't even go here. Like she doesn't belong.
Yes. Yes.
So
That's
wait,
what came into my head. Like what?
Yes.
What do you mean?
wait, can you expand more on that? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
excuse me?
Like, what do you mean?
Okay, so like what I'm
They're
getting
not they're
is,
not alcoholic.
yeah, what I'm getting from that is that
So they're there for friends or?
they
I've
like
met I've met people who have literally told me that they're not so much like, why do we have to talk about the program and the book all the time? I just want to come here and get to know people. So basically you're saying you're lonely.
oh shit.
I've
Oh.
also met people who were well, because in this country you can get sent to rehab, right? So people who continued to attend the meetings and the fellowship because they were deathly afraid of being sent back to the facility if they didn't identify as an alcoholic or an addict.
Mm.
Oh.
But none of those people can relate to a phenomenon of craving, a mental obsession, you know, that lack of control and choice that I know I have,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll go into the rooms. People have mental health conditions, people have other addictions
Yeah.
that get mixed in with alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we come into the rooms of AA. There's a sponsee that I very gently transitioned out of like a couple of days ago. I was helping. I knew that this person did not identify with being an alcoholic, but they're in recovery, right, for something else. And we were able to work on it, and I was as helpful as I could until I could sense my own limit. Like I don't know how to address this problem. And then as we were kind of getting to the end of it, he's like, well, in the US, I know that people, when they call suicide hotlines, sometimes they get patched into somebody who's from AA or NA, and then that helps them. And I'm like, I get it,
Yeah.
but also what you're describing is free therapy. And
Oh.
I'm not the
Mhm.
arbiter of other people's choices, but I can't do that because if we're doing this, then there's somebody out there who's more like me that's dying.
Yeah.
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 Many
Oh.
people in the rooms are not alcoholics in the way that is described in the text.
Oh my
For
goodness.
example, you have like a mental illness, let's say you're bipolar
Mm,
and you're using alcohol to balance you out, right?
right.
That's possible. Like you're
Yeah.
self-medicating with alcohol, but
Yes.
you don't exactly have the
Yes.
same mental obsession that we
Yes.
have,
Yes.
that alcoholics
Oh.
have. But
There's
they're
the
just,
problematic drinking, but
yeah,
yes, they don't have
they
that.
don't have the control. I mean, you know how they say real alcoholics cannot do controlled drinking, and
Yeah.
for the maybe people with some, yeah, like some disorders just mask it with alcohol, but not exactly have that same, yeah, mental obsession. And
Right.
Dude. What the hell?
All right, that's the podcast. All right.
Because like, I remember because that hotline that we have here. No, like somebody called me and was concerned that her daughter was she's like, I think my daughter's an alcoholic. I go, why do you say that? Because, she takes a drink every night to sleep. I go, no. She just needs, I think you should go to a doctor and find out what's not
Yeah,
making
maybe
you
she
sleep,
just
and
has a
probably
sleep
needs some
disorder.
medication for that.
Yeah.
No, but she takes the pills and then she drinks. Let's see about a doctor first. If she only drinks at night to fall asleep, that's one or two glasses of wine, and it's not the whole night. Then I
And
don't
she
think
can
she's gonna.
stop at 1 or 2.
Yeah, right,
Right.
right. That's what I told her, and I was like, let's go to a doctor first. Let's not use AA as a I don't know what.
No. Whatever like that word is, that's exactly the way it's used. Right? Got a problem, send them to a meeting.
Oh God,
And then
you're
everybody's so
telling me.
welcoming. There's coffee and cookies and hugs and
Oh
prayers. And
yeah.
why would you want to leave if you're maybe not suffering from the obsession, but you're miserable? Why would you want to leave that?
And
Freaking
lonely.
lonely, and you find a room full of people who's ready to give you their phone numbers.
Right. It gets so weird. And like, you're I guess Barbie, it was you was asking like, why would you want to be here? In a similar way, but a different reaction. And I don't know, you guys know this story, but like one of the times that I was talking to somebody in early recovery, and then we discovered together that maybe they're not alcoholic. If you remember the story, like the backlash, well, first of all,
Oh
gossip,
yes.
gossip is bad, but the backlash that I received for daring to suggest that somebody didn't need to go, like, if I did not
Yes.
need to do this in order to be happy in my life, like, wouldn't you be happy for me?
Well, what people were saying was like, she was so annoying that Pirate Mike just really wanted to get rid of her.
All these different things, but then no, there was that, but then there were some people who were genuinely offended that like I quote unquote talked somebody out of the program, and it's like I would be happy for her.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah,
The
if you think about
medication,
it.
if
Like
taken
they've got right.
Well,
properly,
No, but
could
there's
help
just it
her.
opens up this whole universe of choices that I don't believe I have.
Yeah. I mean, this person wasn't taking her medication, she was misusing her prescription. I mean, not as like an addict or anything, but she was misusing, meaning she's not taking it.
Right.
Because someone who's
There
not
you go.
taking her medication that is prescribed to you by a doctor, that's called misusing a prescription. And maybe
There you
that's
go.
what she was. If you're not
There you
taking
go.
meds,
There you
you
go. No, but I'm glad though. Like if people can, like if people in this program are kind of realize like, hey, hold on, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. Well, then good for you.
Good for you.
Holy
Right?
shit.
If you're not, why are you here? That's one mystery. But also, if somebody's not, why would we keep them here? I don't understand.
Doug, why are you here? It's okay. You're free to go. You're free.
I
Right?
mean, I love
Yeah.
you guys and everything, but if I were given a choice, if I wanted to be an alcoholic or not, I would choose no.
Right.
I mean, come on, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Can't be
It's hard
happy,
to work on your sobriety every single day. It's
I
hard.
know. Right? And
It's hard to be
especially
a good to try to be a better person all the time. There you go. There's emotional sobriety. When you want to be a better person,
Exactly. No, but it's also because like they're given that well we're of course we're given this second chance at life,
Right.
right? We're given it, but they're given this whole new other like realization that, oh my God, the stigma of it all, I'm not that bad.
Hmm.
Can you believe how the relief of that? Because like,
Hmm.
it's like, dude, go, man. Shit. Be happy. Can you imagine like not having to think about I'm an alcoholic every day. I'm an addict every day. I have to remind myself that when something happens, like Go to your tools, man. Go to your tools,
Right.
right? Seek the higher power, right? Step back, pause. You don't have to think about that anymore.
It's a different consequence, right? Because it goes back to that for us. It goes back to like the death of addiction, where like other people, okay, so I was an asshole today. Maybe I just won't be an asshole tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You
we
know.
have to
Yeah.
identify our triggers, and make sure like if it's a person who's triggering us, we have to fix that relationship. We have to know what is it about this person that's triggering me, that's causing so much animosity and anger. It's something that we have to deal with, and yeah, I mean, before I entered these rooms and before I started doing the steps, I always blamed other people, for every time I fought with someone. I never thought about, wait a minute, what's my part in this? What's my role in this?
Hmm.
It's always like, I'm the victim here. It's his fault. He said this, he said that, he said this, he said that, but then when you do the fourth step, all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, you play a role with, like, for example, like if like your marriage ending, it's so easy to just blame your ex-husband and be like, oh, because he was like this, he was an addict, he was an opiate addict, and that's it. That's why we're divorced and all that stuff. But it takes two for things to end. And sometimes it takes some humility to admit that you played a role in it as well. And it doesn't have to be a divorce. It could just be any fight with anyone,
Yeah.
And I think something that that in early recovery also, when talking about not falling into those danger habits or whatever it is like distraction. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just there and you're riddled with all of these things that you have to um to watch out for.
Yeah.
And so like you can't be distracted. How I long to be distracted. I can't. I can't be distracted anymore. Because if I get distracted, it's God knows where I'm gonna be. That's one thing that I think that emotional sobriety comes hand in hand. It's like you gotta know, you can't be distracted no more.
I think it's
Yeah,
maybe
you have to be aware of everything that you feel. Allow yourself to feel it, and don't be distracted by okay, no,
it's more like you have to be more mindful.
yeah. So there's no more room for distractions. There's no more.
You can be more mindful as
Yeah.
a matter of practicing, like, that mindfulness, which like lends itself to like the accountability and like, but I mean, it sounds really serious, right? And it's all very serious. I also want to appreciate the fact that like, if we're working on our emotional sobriety today, if that's kind of the goal, then that's already a luxury that we did not have when we were still out there drinking and using. And I have some horror stories where I've forgotten that. Like I've leaned into the idea of emotional sobriety and character building, if you want to call it that, but like I forgot what got me here in the first place. So I'll hear people say things like, what's that one slogan? First things first, right? And they'll say, first things first, don't drink today. And then I have rolled my eyes and been like, it's so much more than not taking a drink today, which is true.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing. And then forgetting that has gotten me into trouble. There's this one time, and I wasn't a newcomer anymore, where in like a work setting, it all happened so fast where somebody offered me, I was in a room with like two other people, and somebody offered us drinks. And in my head, the thinking was like, I'm strong, I'm prayed up, it's fine, I'm emotionally sober, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. So I'm just gonna like pretend to sip it or like sniff it, and it's gonna be fine. And then very immediately right after, the thought was like, I'm not gonna drink it, I'm just gonna let my lip touch the liquid. It was like, it was lambanog, right?
No.
And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
And I was like, I'm just gonna let it touch the lip, and then that's fine. And like God worked through the third person in the room, because after they saw me do that, they were like, you're not supposed to do that. And then they took it and, and poured it into their glass, and that was the end of it. But that was such a big fucking mistake. I don't even know what to tell you guys. Like, I think that it's true that based on like the experience that you have in recovery, there's probably a little bit of distance that you can have between a sobriety and whoring yourself out for crack in the street. You know what I mean? Like, so I wasn't there immediately, but it goes back, like the minute it hit,
Yeah.
everything started changing.
Yeah.
And then in my head, all of a sudden it was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I can probably get away with this.
Nice.
And then it was like, but then, another slogan is the play the tape through, which
Yes.
I roll my eyes at a lot, because in early sobriety, it's like, if I'm coming in fresh off the street, I have no ability to play the tape through. What fucking tape are you talking about? I'm going to die. But if you've been sober a while and your perspective has changed, you can play the tape through. And that's what happened. Like, I did think, oh, the phenomenon of craving hasn't kicked in. Maybe it's okay. And then I started seeing, next week I'm going to do it again. And then next week in a day, I'm going to do it again. And then next week in a day, in a few hours, I'm going to do it again. And before this month is out, I'm going to be drinking every day. And I knew that in my heart.
Exactly.
And so it was like, what I'm saying is like, yeah, today I get to focus on my relationship with my higher power and how happy is my life today. But I can't let that lull me into a false sense of insecurity.
Yep. And you got distracted for a moment. It was right there.
The mental
Then
fucking
you were
blank
just
spot.
you were thinking like
No.
you know that.
It was so justified, right? I'm not even thinking, I'm not thinking about me, Carbs. I don't want to, I'm safe. So I'm just going to make this person feel better and not offend him by like pretending to drink and letting it touch my
Yeah.
lips for a second. It's about them. It's not about me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Complete fucking,
It's
You know,
insane.
Right?
It's
I told my
insane.
wife and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't even know. It made sense at the time.
At that
It makes
time.
sense. That's
Yeah.
why there's no room for distraction.
Yeah, that's true. That's
It's
true.
like your sobriety comes first. There's no room to be distracted by other people's feelings. Right? No,
Right.
or other people's opinions. That's why they say what other people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
That's exactly what it is. I can't be distracted by what you think of me.
It's a trap. You'll get trapped.
Exactly.
Like, for
Right?
example, like
I'll be polite.
I asked, I asked Pirate Mike, like I asked for his advice, and I was like, I'm gonna change sponsors, and because I was doing things the NA way, and I want to learn about because when I sponsor, I want to learn how to do it, the AA way. But I said I'm scared to tell this person that I'm moving or I'm gonna work with another sponsor, like starting from step 5 onwards. I was scared. But then, actually Pirate Mike said, well, this is your sobriety. It's like, yeah, I mean, she may feel bad, but this is your sobriety that we're talking about here. It's a matter of life and death. I remember when you said that to me. And I said, you're right.
Exactly.
And even though my sponsor did not feel bad, I mean, thank God for that. Thank God for that, because she's an emotional, sober person.
There you go.
She just said,
Yeah.
she let me go with love, wished me well, and always said, I will always be here for you. Imagine if I let that fear of like, oh, what if she doesn't love me anymore? If I tell her that I'm gonna work with another sponsor. But
Right.
we're talking about, we're talking about my sobriety. We're talking about doing the steps.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't be secondary. That should come first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it could have led to more resentment, I mean,
Yeah.
because I've been in that position where I waited too long because of fear and not wanting to disappoint. And so in the meantime, I'm already starting to detach. I'm developing resentments because I don't want to be in this relationship anyway with that sponsor, right? And then that person can see that I'm detaching and not really doing the work. And so now both of us have this like unspoken like resentment that's developing.
Oh.
And then when things come to a head, it's not being let go in love anymore.
Sounds like a divorce.
It can be.
A messy divorce.
It can be. It can be treated that way. I think, you have a beautiful relationship and that's good, but there are also horror stories where people they'll get yelled at,
Yeah.
Oh.
but that's because we're dealing with people.
Well, I
Because
get
their egos get hurt,
Egos get hurt.
Their egos get hurt. But if that person is emotionally sober,
Yeah.
she won't feel that way. She would understand and wish you well.
It's not about them.
That it's not
not
about,
about
them.
them. There you go. It's not about them. It's not about them. That's exactly what it is. Like, you can't you can't go through life just expecting to be the person that everybody wants you to be.
Yeah, you
Hmm.
can't people please, especially when it comes to
No,
your
but
sobriety's on the line.
but
Yeah.
there's also a limit to that. I mean, like, okay, I'm not a people pleaser, but yeah, just don't be a jerk.
And
Right.
don't be an asshole. Don't be this angry.
God, I know, like, you're not a people pleaser, but like, you're a bitch. Can we meet in the middle at least?
I
Sheesh.
mean, a person who's really like, for me, it's like, wow, sick is like when you fire your sponsor who tells you to just, calm down, come back to me, do the 10th step. And she's like, no, I don't want to do the 10th step. Maybe you shouldn't be my sponsor anymore.
Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
God. I was
No.
like, whoa, that,
Uh-huh.
wow.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
piece of work.
No, see, that's what I'm saying about some people that just don't embrace the program. Okay, I have to admit, when I when I was in rehab, I actually told them, like, I'm gonna hang out with people in recovery.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
that notion in my head that no,
Yeah.
hell no. But then, like, you realize that having deep, rich connections with other people who are just like you, that's
It's part of your recovery.
it's part of it.
It's part of
That's where I can navigate my behaviors. That's where I can navigate because they can understand it. I'm expecting, well, this is my expectation, actually. I think, they would know to an extent, right? I'm not going to be a bitch about it or anything like that because, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, if I do something and I discuss it with other fellows or my friends in recovery and, I'm remorseful or whatever it is, or, I feel good about it and I discuss it with other people, it's like, there's a deeper connection because that it took a lot for me to go through that, to achieve that,
Mhm.
to overcome that. And so my emotional sobriety for me, is that I'm able to share it.
Hmm.
I'm able to express it without backlash and without, like, people putting me down or stuff like that, whatever it is. And that goes to show that it kind of helps me build that whole, it just build my whole character for when I deal with people outside.
Mhm.
That's recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It starts here. It starts with the people here. It starts with the program. And if you're not going to embrace it, well, then fuck you. What the
know
fuck are you
that
doing here?
you know if something's wrong, if nothing's changed. Like with your relationship with your family, the people that you love, if nothing's changed, then there's something wrong,
Yeah.
right? But if like you enter the program and then you learn about, you do the steps, take responsibility for your, side of things, your participation, I mean, it's gonna happen. You're gonna end up having better relationships with your family members. Like I haven't fought with anyone in my family in many, many months. Before I
wow.
was always like, my sister and I wouldn't talk for like 2 months. And this happens a lot.
2 months.
Like in 1 year, we'd be bickering and I'd be bitching, and then she'd put down the phone on me, and then all of these things. The next thing you know, we're not speaking for like 2 months, and then something happens, it's Christmas or whatever, and then we end up hugging, making up, and then we'll fight again. And then, it's like, wow. It's like, but now I've learned to like, wait a minute. I'm like, I'm not gonna give into this. I can respond better to this person. I know that this person triggers me.
That's
Mm.
good.
So yeah, I was able to identify it, because before, whenever we'd fight, I would end up drinking. So now I'm so conscious whenever we're about to go at it again, like having an argument. I already remind myself, calm down, because the moment you fight, it's gonna trigger you. So I already avoid. If I have to step out of the room, or if I have to like, just stand up from the table and say, look, let's agree to disagree, and then just stand up, take a walk, remove yourself from the situation. Because before, I didn't have that. I didn't have the tools I didn't know that I could walk away. I thought I had to fight.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought I had to engage.
Right.
Yes.
Because if I don't engage, then I'm letting this person walk all over me. Right?
But it's more than that. It's more than just the tools. One of the 9-step promises is our whole attitude and outlook upon life has changed. Your whole attitude and outlook upon your life has changed. And I think that's important to note, because sure, you have this toolbox with tools, but now you have a healthier and more helpful attitude and outlook upon your life, so that you're actually picking up those tools.
Yes.
Because before, that this situation you're describing with your sister, right? Like those tools were always there, whether or not you were aware of them is, okay, sure. But if you were not emotionally sober, if you didn't have that change in perspective, you'd be like, fuck these tools. It's either me or her. I'm not going to let her push me off of this table.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I value my peace more.
Yeah.
Than being right.
Yeah.
Before it's like, no, I have to be right. She's wrong. And I don't care if we, if we're gonna be at war for God knows how long. And when you're fighting with someone, it hurts. It hurts for me to be fighting with someone that you love. And I don't want to go through that anymore. I'm tired of that. I value my peace of mind and my sobriety more than being right.
That's recovery. I mean, that's recovery, right?
Mhm.
I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but it kind of sounds as if you have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. But whatever.
I like it. Say it again. Say it again.
I'm so glad for you, because I want that. I want that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not completely there yet with my mother, but
With my mother.
Oh yes.
Because I mean,
There's always this one person left.
there's always gonna be that one person, right? And like, even it's like sometimes I'm still there. Like, I really have to work on because like this is what they say, like, okay, physical sobriety is just stopping drinking. Another cornerstone of recovery is emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It all depends on that.
And maybe you're right. Maybe there is one person. I'll say that, like, because with me, that one person also has been my mother. And the clarity that only relatively recently I'm getting is in recognizing, what am I still trying to fight here?
Yeah.
Something's not working in the way that this relationship is. But what am I doing that's still keeping me in the fight? That's still keeping me in suffering? That's got to change if I really
Ugh.
want peace.
It could be resentment also, because that's a killer, resentment. And I think that's what's happening. Like, I managed to fix a lot of my relationships with people, especially my family members. But there's this one person that still bothers me, and it's hard. It's hard, really.
No, it
And
is hard.
I really have to pay attention to it, because I've
Yeah.
started to notice that it's been eating me up. And so now I know that if it's possible that I was able to mend things with my sister, able to mend
Oh, nice.
things with my mother also, because it used to be my mother, but then now it's not. I've made peace with my mother. I love my mother, but now it's this person. So there's hope, because I'm like, if I was able to do this with other people, I just need to keep working on this.
That's
and maybe
important.
one day,
Yeah.
this person won't affect me that much.
Ugh.
You can, but it's good. I mean, the way that you phrased it, Kase, is I think that's I think there's so much power in language and phrasing, right? And so for you to connect what worked in these other situations with this one thing, right? You're like, oh, maybe if I continue that work, then someday it'll be, because it could very easily sound more like this. I did this work with my sister and my mother, and that worked out well. But this one person, and that's already the
That's all.
exception, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be like, it's not working and it's never gonna work,
Right.
because it's just too difficult.
Right.
No, I really am hopeful. I'm really hopeful, and I'm gonna continue to pray until that gets fixed.
But there's also that, but you have to also like take into consideration that if it's not gonna happen,
That's true.
accept
There's
it.
also the acceptance. You're right.
But then
You're
what does that look like? So that's kind of close to where I'm at. So today, my acceptance of the situation is there just has to be a distance,
Yes.
and it
Mm.
makes me sad,
Yeah.
but it also feels healthy.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there
Exactly.
yet.
I'm there. The distance is healthier because to keep the peace, if distance is the answer, then so be it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't love this person or whatever. It just means that I want our relationship to be as peaceful and as, I don't know, not shaky as opposed to us just bickering and
Yeah.
like,
It's not just because it's not just you. It's not just you, right? Like, as much as you, all right, I language. So as much as I love this person, it was also healthy for me to see that it's not just about my capacity to love and forgive. It's also, it takes two. And when I examine or try to understand from the person's side naman, I fulfill a certain role in this person's life, right? And I've met people who, for example, same thing, close relationships where it's like, for whatever reason, my role is it could be the punching bag, it could be the emotional shoulder to cry on, or the emotional buffer. It could be any number of things that's actually harmful to me, but it's something that they need from me.
Oh.
And when I decide that that's not something I want to give anymore.
Yes.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
not just like, it's two things. Like, the distance is also because you can't help yourself. I don't like, it's just like sick man's prayer, right? Like, if we're going to share the same space, I just don't think that you can help yourself from not hurting me in some way, whether or not you intend to, because that's just who I am to you and to your life.
Yeah.
And if I want to be healthy and emotionally sober,
There has to be a distance.
there has to be a
from that
distance.
Toxic, like, that toxic relationship.
Yes. Yes.
And because you know,
You
like
have to let
I've
it
always
go.
said this, like you know, the phone works both ways. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like distance or not, I don't see you I don't hear you calling me, right? So it's okay. We're okay,
Hmm.
right? And if I see you, if I go over there and be like, yeah, hi, you know, what's up?
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
okay to
okay.
be distant as long as you don't harbor any resentment, I think.
I'm trying my hardest. I'm gonna get there. Don't worry, you guys. I'm gonna get
That's
there.
why it's progress and not perfection, you know?
Then I hate that phrase when they say like, no, but you know, for example, like if it's a family member, they're your family. You know,
Oh
you
no,
should
no,
always
no.
like,
I'm
oh,
already,
Yeah, you
I
I'm
can
like,
feel
respect,
you're not
you should
even done.
respect
"Ah,
your
You're not
whatever,
even done
right?
saying it. My hair is
you."
standing up already. Like,
Yeah.
fuck
I
that.
hate
Like
that.
you're the daughter, you have to be the one, right?
Ugh.
Right? That's our culture.
It's our culture.
That's our culture. You know, our elders they're not supposed to say sorry to you. They're not, it's us that always has to be the one to, even if that person is wrong, you're the one who has to be respectful, right?
And that's an obligation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but we're
As
breaking the
children.
cycle now. Like with my daughter, I know when to say sorry. It's not hard for
Yeah.
me anymore.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Mhm.
Yep. Oh, I wish my mom would say sorry to me.
Oh, carbs.
Not just say
That was
no, because
honest.
I broke the cycle. I broke the cycle
Mhm.
because I know how to apologize to my kids.
Mm.
Mhm.
You know, I know I mean I admitted to my faults and everything like that because like once again because my emotional sobriety depends upon this,
Mhm.
right? You make things right, but then like you're dealing with somebody who's just like it's not there. I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, that's why you have to accept this program and its fellows because, like, once you deal with people outside of the program,
Mm.
recovery, it's a different story. You got to build yourself up before you actually can deal with these people outside. Hence why making amends is all the way to step 9. You have to go through 1 through 8 first before you're emotionally ready to face the people outside. Right?
Mm.
So it's a long way from step 1 to 8, from 1 to 9. It's a long way. And yeah. So I'm just saying, one day I'll be there.
It'll
One day
happen. It'll
it'll
happen.
happen. It'll happen.
Listen, then
Like
we just pray for God's will.
we'll pray for God's will because
Surrender that relationship. Like this. Surrender.
Surrender. Yeah.
Surrender with 2 hands.
I
Here
think-
you go, God.
I think the
person.
timing is there. I mean, I didn't want to say anything before, but we're talking about like your first sponsee, right?
Mhm.
You recently just started on 9, right?
Yeah.
So
But I've been
like
doing 10 already and
so like technically you're in the part of the process where you're starting to remove like the last bits that are blocking you from the spiritual experience, right? And then the rest of it is like the maintenance steps. And so you're at that point in your recovery, and all of a sudden now you have your first sponsee. I'm just saying.
It's amazing. It's so amazing. Remember the day.
I'm just
I
saying,
remember the
did
day when you were like, I'm not ready.
right?
When it was
Right.
brought up, you were like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
not
because-
ready.
yes.
I can't be a sponsor. I can't do it. I can't, I remember that day. And
Right.
now you
No,
have
because,
a
okay, dear listeners, to our 5 listeners, yeah, lightning did strike.
That means you're
Here we are.
programmed. See,
Right.
there's the change. See, when there's change,
Right.
that means it's working.
It's working. It's working.
You're making it work.
I'm making it work. And maybe this is the experience that I need to finally like see that my relationship with my mother will be
Yes.
restored.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something you'll learn, you know.
Something I'll learn, and something's gonna click finally.
Restored. I don't want to let that go. That's an ideal.
That's an ideal, but not
But
completely.
you know, like they say,
Maybe there'll be healing. Whatever that
healing.
looks like.
Okay, healing. Yeah,
Hmm.
healing. Whatever that will look like, right? Maybe there will finally be acceptance on her part.
on her part, acceptance on her part.
No, because like, there is no acceptance of who I am.
Yeah, I get you. I
There
get
is
you.
that. There is
Get
that.
you.
You know, I think that it's that resentment that I didn't turn out the way she wanted me to turn out.
Yeah, that's hard. For me,
It's
like
it's hard to live up to an expectation that you're not you.
For me, there was just so much resentment in this relationship that this person can't look beyond it.
Mm,
Even though I'm trying,
yeah.
you know, but he's still on guard. You know, he's got his sword and he's got his shield. So when I talk to him, he's like, armor up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's hard, but I'm gonna keep on trying. I'm gonna keep on trying.
I'm at the point where I just don't want to poke the bear. I'm just careful. Like, okay, keep a little distance between us.
I do believe that they see in time that something is different, right? Because if you're not, especially if there's like a lack of engagement, a lack of the type of engagement that they're used to from us, maybe not immediately, but over time, you know, they're kind of forced to see it because you can't ignore the fact that there is no more conflict. That creates space, it creates silence, and then it's like after a while, it's like what's happening? Nothing's happening. Why is nothing happening? Then they get to pay attention. Hopefully.
But
Yeah.
I also remember that in life, everything changes. So even when that happens,
Yeah.
you know, it could always go back.
It could always go back.
It could always go back. Because, yeah, everything in life changes, the good and the bad. So let's say, yeah, it changed, it proved, it can easily just go back just like that also. And we just have to be ready and accept that happened. It could happen. And just let go of the outcome. That's hard.
True.
That's hard.
That also sounds pretty emotionally fucking sober. What you just said.
Yeah, you know what? Is it my you know what? I'm so
There,
happy with
ladies
this
and
haircut. I think it's the hair.
It's
It's
there.
there.
She has arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Barbie,
Barbie has
the
arrived.
new Barbie.
That's like multiple mic drops in one session. That's good.
Mic drop.
I mean, good. I mean, seriously, it's good for you, man. See, like, that's what it is. Emotional sobriety. It's working, and we're all on it. We're all working on it, not on it. We're all working on it every single day, and it's the other half of sobriety, of recovery, physical sobriety and emotional sobriety. Right? So kudos to us.
Yep.
Kudos
Cheers
to us.
the journey.
Cheers to the
Power
journey.
to everyone.
My fucking mug. Next time.
Don't have a fucking mug.
Cheers.
Sorry.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This has been an episode of the Cocoa Recovery Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with our hosts or guests, please email us at cocoarecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.